important part. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish. If there any public comment, and then we will move to the agenda item that I skipped. Seeing none, thank you so much. So we are going to do a land acknowledgement. Rather than doing this at every meeting, because we don't want it to become rote, we wanted to take this as a special opportunity to acknowledge doing a land acknowledgement. And so thank you so much for staff that's coming forward.
Good evening. My name is Elena Sividasan, and I'm the Executive Director of Equity, Belonging, and Family Partnerships.
Hello, Jacqueline Downey, Assistant Superintendent.
We want to begin by acknowledging the first people of this land since time immemorial. By doing so, we can better understand the history, present, and future existence of the land and people of this area. As we engage in this work, we ask that you reflect on your own place in time and space. Since the beginning of time, or since time immemorial, the Indigenous people have called this area home. They are called Snoqualmie, a Lachute seed name meaning the Transformers people. They lived along the banks of the rivers that ran free. And where the salmon spawned. They lived under the shadows of the mountains. And the canopy of the trees. And the shores of the lakes that dotted the land. Over time, people began to immigrate and settle on this land the Snoqualmie called home. These immigrants were drawn by the natural resources such as coal, timber, and fertile farmland. The settlers forever changed the way of life and the land for the Indigenous people. but the indigenous people continue to live in the lands they have always called home. They are not separate from these lands and waters. As more people immigrated to this land, townships were established. Some grew so much as to be called a city. Although many things have changed since the beginning of time, the Snoqualmie people's relationship with this land remains foundational. They still live along the rivers where the salmon spawn, under the shadows of the mountains, and the canopies of the trees, and the lakes that dot the land. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a meeting management tool whereby the board is able to pass multiple items with one motion. The consent agenda items have been reviewed by the board prior to the meeting. Any board member may remove an item from the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda for discussion. Is there any desire to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yes. I'd like to remove item 16. And then does that mean I also have to remove item 17?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Do I need a second?
Okay. So once they're removed, we would need a motion for the consent agenda as amended.
I move the consent agenda be approved as amended.
I second.
There any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, so those items will be added to the discussion after our discussion on the budget. Okay, so with that is the establishment of the regular agenda. We have just already made some changes. Are there any additional changes to the regular agenda?
No other changes aside from the one that was just made.
So the first item on our agenda is to move into a public hearing. Do I have the documentation? I just basically say we're moving into a public meeting, right? Okay, so I'm going to open up a public hearing in regards to the budget. The 2025-2026 budget is now open.
Good evening. Tonight we have the Board Resolution 1243 for the 25-26 budget. It outlines what the different funds that we have in the revenues and expenditures, as well as the levy capacity. And also included is the 4-year outlook and the MSOC disclosure, which shows the state funded portion, which is 27 million, our budget expenditures of 44, and the difference of 16 million. So we're available for any questions. And we also had a lengthy presentation on the board meeting prior with where we had a public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, can I hear a motion?
I move the board adopt resolution number 1243, which establishes appropriations for the 2025-26 budget.
I second.
Okay. So next steps. So is there any public comment with regards to the budget adoption resolution? Seeing none, we'll open that to any further information that you would like to ask or any further information that staff has to present. We've had the public hearing. We've had an opportunity to review.
I guess the only question is, are there any significant changes or any changes since our first public hearing?
And so Mariah Banis, Executive Director of Finance. No, there has not been. I did have a couple conversations with some community members who also were soon to be employees of the district as well.
Okay, I'll open it up to any comments from the board.
I would just say I really appreciate your team for the work that you do to ensure that we can serve students and families to the best that we can. I'm excited this is the first year that we are integrating in the board's desire for equity-based budgeting, and so we can drive more supports to our buildings that need it the most. And appreciate all the reach outs you do through FAC meetings and otherwise to keep our stakeholders abreast. So thank you.
Any other comments? Director Mullings?
Yes, so as we had a lengthy discussion at our last board meeting, which was the first public hearing on the budget, we certainly have the ability to go back and listen to that entire conversation. I will again and always plug the completeness and the thorough nature of the budget documents presented, including the guide to understanding the budget, which is available for the public, which goes through all sources and all uses of funding within the district. It is a highly informational document that I will always just point people to as an item to familiarize with how funds are used in the district, which can be a topic that comes up frequently. I have had the opportunity to look through the material. I had all my questions answered in that first hearing, so I have no further questions.
Great. Anything else?
Comment as well that thank you for the wonderful work and thorough presentation that you gave at our last meeting. So thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. And I failed to mention at the beginning that Director Taylor is out ill. He may be listening virtually, but I think his throat is very raspy. So he said it would be limited in any speaking that he might be doing. And he might be asleep by now because I think he was really under the weather. So I think it's been great. And, for me, I appreciate how the synergy between the board developing their guidelines and how those are addressed in the budget. So I think people often wonder what is the board's role in that, and it is in our budget development guidelines that we provide for you. And then to be able to see it meted out, understanding the difficulties in just funding. Some of the areas I think that we highlighted last time was really the amount of expenditures to support our students that need the most support, and how that is underfunded by our state, even to this effect. And I know that they've put more money towards it. It's really actually not the state. I shouldn't put them on the hook for that, because it's the federal government that promised to give us 40% towards the needs of those students requiring special services. And they're at a whopping, 13%? Overall, and I think for our district, it's even much lower than that. So, so I do want to thank you for all the work to be able to make sure that we're serving students best. I would say that I am hopeful that perhaps we can take a look at our budget guidelines for next year and get a chance to review them in November, while I still have a say. But with that, I think that there are no other additional questions. Did you have a comment?
I was going to say that makes good sense to look at our budget development guidelines a little bit earlier than we have in the past, primarily because there is a lot of budget uncertainty, as we talked about with the federal government in the budget hearing, and that we've talked about since we started to see some signs of that uncertainty late last spring. So as I think about the good work and a great work of our business office and finance team, we want to get towards stronger multi-year planning so that we can start to account for what those federal implications might be. So I think that makes good sense to try and review that earlier to get that guidance to help us navigate these next set of waters.
Okay, with that, seems there's no other discussion. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is We'll start with a motion. So this is about the ratification of the agreement between the school district and the Issaquah Education Association.
I move that the board approve the agreement reached with the Issaquah Education Association September 1, 2025 through August 31, 2028.
I second.
Okay. Time for discussion. So we'll start with Executive Director Hood, or I'm sorry, Assistant Superintendent.
It's okay. Sometimes I forget to.
I've been here too long.
Yes, you've known several of my titles, indeed.
I didn't call you principal.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. I am so pleased to be standing here today and have the opportunity to recognize some of my colleagues, including our IEA president who is here tonight. We are so thrilled that IEA has ratified this TA and it is now going to be a CBA. It's like when a bill becomes a law, it feels like. And it's been quite a journey. I want to say a big thank you to both teams that worked really, really diligently over the last several months to get to this place. And I think our community should know that there was a real desire on the part of both teams to invest in the work of inclusion and supporting our students with special needs, as well as the staff who serve those students, and really increasing collaboration between our special ed and general educators to continue that work, and to find a way to do that that was affordable, that was practical, that we could operationalize. So there was a lot of time spent on that. And while Dr. Carver is not here tonight, she was a key asset and advocate and brought her expertise to the table many times, even though she wasn't officially on the team. And we also really were pleased. Our colleagues really wanted to see class size containment and reductions, and we're very reasonable in a lot of their other requests because that's a deep value for them, and they really want to provide the highest quality service they can to our students, the highest quality instruction they can to our students, and they felt strongly that investing there, even if it meant not investing other places, was the way to go. And so it took a lot of work to get there, but we got there, and we are thrilled to have arrived at this place and really come to an agreement that all parties are very, very proud of.
Right. Is there any public comment on this item before we have board discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to board discussion. And I'll open it up to comments.
Guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge Donna, you and your team, and all the work that you've done over, it isn't just the past week, months leading up to this. And the collaborative relationship you have with Durana and IEA and all the work that they have done. And I couldn't be more excited about the shared vision and priorities that you discussed and were outlined at the table, like to drive investments in inclusive practices, to drive investments to decrease class sizes where we can. Like, that's some amazing partnership. And I can't thank IEA and its leadership enough for that. So.
Thank you. And I probably haven't used this word yet tonight, but I will say that I think both teams were very creative in the solutions they brought forward. And of course, not every interesting idea is ultimately the one that wins the day, but there was a lot of back and forth that kept us creatively finding ways to repurpose existing dollars to get to those goals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Mullings.
Yes, thank you. And big congratulations. Obviously, it's really important, particularly with school starting next week, is that we have an agreement in place, which is amazing. But I love having this conversation following the one we just had around the budget. And these things they're very connected, and our ability to manage the district in a way that brings great outcomes for our students, that supports the professional development and inner workings of our staff, and also does that in a way in which we can afford and continue to be better than solvent as a district. I think that's a huge feat. It's a huge feat in our current climate and the climate of the last couple of years. And I think it's just a real signal to the health of the Issaquah School District. So I thank all the parties involved, and I just really appreciate the collaborative nature and the focus on really what's most important for the kids and doing that successfully within all the many, many, many parameters that exist in the organization. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Coyne.
I'm going to tack on to that and just again, thank you. Thank our district leadership, our union leadership for their great work. And I think Donna, you put it well in saying creative in the solutions that were brought forward. And I think I know there's a lot of work that goes into that. So I just thank you so much, because I think at the end of the day, we've put students first and we put our staff first. We found a way to really elevate everyone. So thank you for the good work.
Very welcome.
You know, I talked, I think, previously about really hoping that this year we would be more than just interest-based bargaining, but student-based bargaining. And I feel like that is the result, yet still respectful for the people that are providing that service to our students, that learning. So to our facilitators of learning one day, I hope that phrase catches on, that we understand that this is about really supplying what's best for students, but that we're also respectful and understand the absolute need for exceptional teachers and what can we do to ensure that they have the supports that they need to do that work to the best of their ability. And that it really is, when they're successful, that means our students are successful. And so really driving both of those pieces home. So thankful for all of those that were involved in that bargaining, into the wee hours of the morning, and not so wee hours of the morning from what I heard, that in the end, I think we really do have something that the community should be proud of the work of what transpired, but also proud of the work that our district is doing to support students, and really thankful for all of that. So Superintendent.
Speaking of creative solutions, there are some other things that are part of the agreement that was tentatively reached and ratified tonight by the IEA membership that I think set us up for the next item that had been on consent as well, on a waiver, and also the discussion of the calendar for this year, which is an important one to have publicly and sort of hear from the board directly on, as well as, you know, what that means for different minutes that we have to count in certain ways for, you know, our school day. So it might be helpful to preview some of that as
Yes.
another sort of creative solution, but also win as well.
Yes. So in the work that we did at the table to really repurpose some of those existing resources, we learned a lot from the bomb cyclone. Some lessons we didn't really want to learn, but we learned them. And so we applied those at the table and said, how can we sort of set ourselves up to deal with this kind of situation in the future, should it arise again? One thing we learned was that by consolidating our district PD time from the October and January days into one January PD day, we would become eligible to submit a waiver to the state of Washington to count that as a student day. So that has become one of 180 student days. And I think that's really crucial to point out that would then be counted. So that was one creative solution that we came up with that we had not yet seen. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room in the calendar, again, should inclement weather arise. The other thing that our union partners were really shared a vision with us about, we had we met our basic education allocation minutes, but we were barely above that minimum threshold. And so in the event of inclement weather, it became very difficult to apply for a waiver because we needed to be further above that minimum threshold to be eligible for that inclement weather waiver. So to that end, we agreed at the table to add 5 minutes to every elementary school, and that is 5 minutes of student time, teacher-student time, not changing ultimately the contracted workday, but rather the student contact time by 5. And 5 of our middle schools would have an additional 5 minutes added and would align then to the minutes at IMS. They already had that 5 minutes in their schedule. By doing that alone, that gained us an additional 11.9 hours of time with our students over the course of a calendar year, a school year calendar. And the last half day of school will be a half day, which gets us another hour of time. So all in, that's 12.9 hours. And that gets us, again, above that BEA threshold for our basic ed allocation minutes and allows us to be eligible again to apply for a waiver because we will have met the threshold even if we've lost some time due to snow or ice.
Great. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, Sydney.
So to that end, I move the board adopt
Well,
resolution.
we still have this motion. But we haven't voted on this motion.
Oh, no.
Director Coyne.
I just wanted to elevate, Donna, what you just said, related to the qualification for the full waiver. I think that was something we heard from the community. And again, I want to thank district leadership and IEA leadership too for their work on this, because this is directly, again, we heard from the community going through the bomb cyclone last year. So thank you for the good work on that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so have we been having a discussion before you made a motion to approve the contract?
I know the contract motion is made. The discussion we're having is actually the next topic. So
Right.
we've moved the discussion.
Yes.
That's into the next topic. So we should
It's
close on the
related, but
contract.
yes.
It's related, but
Yes. So do we have, and that's why I asked the question kind of the way it was. I was being nicer about it, about, do we have any more discussion on the contract ratification? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of approving the CBAs, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So that will be a relief to teachers who are already coming to the classroom and school starting in a week. We do have a contract.
Indeed.
Okay, so our next item that we have moved from the consent agenda onto the regular agenda is in regards to, I have to scroll down to get the language of it. The OSPI 180-day school year waiver application. Do I have a motion?
I move the board adopt resolution number 1245, requesting a 3-year waiver for the minimum 180-day school year requirement of the basic education program for the 2025-26, 2026-27, 2027-28 school years as presented.
I second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion related to this item? The waiver that was described. So now that we've consolidated those into one PD day, that is now applicable for a waiver. And so this is just any discussion on this motion to approve that.
And I should probably add, Director Ronaldo, it contains content and a focus that is approved by the state of Washington. That's also what makes it eligible.
But just want to understand the impact to the calendar is by doing this, that effectively turns a non-student day into a student day
Correct?
from a lived experience for families.
Yes. The October day is a school day then for students. Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
And the other thing it does is it reduces the number of days by one that they have to go to school that they are currently going to school.
Correct. 179 days actually then counts as 180
Right.
days for students. That is correct. So that shortens the year by 2.
Those two things will shorten the year by 2.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments related to this item?
Yes. So obviously we're stepping through a set of items, all that we're really excited about and that we believe is going to do a few things. And one of them is, as you mentioned, is learning from our experience with having multiple days out of school, building in more cushion into the school year, which I know has been a deep and important conversation. And so this step is to help us move toward what will be building a new calendar year, a new calendar for this year. I think I want to say it that way because we will eventually, when we work through all of our appropriate steps, change the calendar of the current year we are starting in a week. So I think I think that may feel disruptive to community members. And so I just want to pause on that and acknowledge that at the same time, it's an incredible opportunity for us to make sure that we're having the most impactful school year, as well as be able to take advantage of things we couldn't in the past, like waivers that would have allowed us to shorten our last school year. So it will take us a couple of steps to get there, but it's really important work. And this is like step 2 in that process. But I do want to just acknowledge that there'll be some work to be done, which is the next topic, on really getting to a calendar, and that there will be some level of in-year change that I believe will be to the positive, but that's, I think, important to lay out.
Thank you.
Yeah, and kudos to Donna and your team for navigating all of this complexity.
Yes, thank you.
Could not have done it alone. There were many, many contributors.
So are there any other comments on this particular item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So we have now approved the waiver to be filed. So that does, as discussed, impact through the contract language that affects the number of basic education minutes. As you discussed, the 5 additional minutes, as well as there will be an impact to the calendar, which we can also discuss on this item. But our motion is specifically around those minutes because our operational expectation number 11, I believe it is 10, structure of schools, does request or does require the superintendent to come to the board if there's any substantial changes to start or bell times, which this would be a change to bell times. So I will need a motion.
I move the board authorize the school district to increase the student contact time, also known as BEA minutes, by 5 minutes at all elementary schools and 5 minutes at 5 of our middle schools.
I second.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Any additional information regarding that, or do you feel like you've tapped out on explaining that?
That's it. My transportation friends are eager to hear and actualize all of this.
Great. Is there any public comment on this item, this motion? Hearing none. Is there any comments from the board on this item? Director Gallinger. Oh, hearing none? Oh, Director
So
Mullings.
I think it's important, just as I'm the one who voiced the motion, that what we said is that it's we're extending the student contact time by 5 minutes at all elementary schools and by 5 minutes at 5 of our middle schools. And I know you mentioned this, but I just want to pause on it again. Why is it only 5?
It is only 5 because IMS was already there.
Awesome. And then I think it's just worth restating, by adding this time, what of our last year's experience would be different?
We would have an additional 11.9 hours more in our BEA allocation. And one of the parts of an inclement weather application asks us to assure the state that we have met our BEA requirement before they approve a waiver. So it is important that we are above the threshold and have some of that wiggle room. In addition to, of course, some inclement weather makeup days. It's 3 per event that are required by the state in order to be approved for a waiver, but that BEA threshold must be met.
And the amount of days that we would have to make up before we could go for a waiver is 3. Is that correct?
3 per weather event. Unclear if OSPI will ever change that, but that is the way the current application reads.
Okay. Director Coyne.
And just to clarify, last year we qualified for 1 day. Am I remembering that?
Last year, I am not entirely certain how or why the state approved us, but they did. I don't believe we actually hit the 3-day.
It technically should have been 0. right? But we did get, yeah.
but we
Okay.
did get some.
Yeah.
I think they may have really wanted to acknowledge the very specific and local impact felt by this district.
Bottom line is we were approved last year for one waiver day. And that's an acceptable decision by OSPI
Yes.
to us.
But this change would give us the potential of 3.
It would
This is the-
ensure eligibility. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before approving this agenda item, this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. So before we move on from this, so what this means is that I'm hearing there will be some changes to the calendar so that we will be working through as a board on what that looks like and that will go back to the union for approval. So it is it's a fine dance between that. So we look forward to what that looks like, being able to appropriately give those days back to families. And how do we best do that while still supporting students and their learning needs and the impact of inclemental weather days on student learning. And so we'll be coming back with that information as soon as possible. Any other comments?
I think if the board wishes to recap some of the important discussions that have happened over many years now, and we know that there's some important guidelines and parameters that have been talked about, but it just is a helpful opportunity to be able to make that visible again to the community. And I think that I know that the board would be really, I assume the board would be very willing, given where we are on the timeline, to even host an additional meeting that's not on the calendar right now to be able to assist with a smooth effort here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to say that this is highly unusual deviation from practice and to not have a calendar set as we get ready to enter the school year. I think it's been since COVID that's happened. That being said, I totally appreciate and want to honor the creativity and the partnership you guys did, which now means that there is going to need to be schedule calendar adjustments. And that is what it is, and we'll move forward with that. I think for me, I would want to minimize the impact to our families as much as possible. So the fact that I'm hearing that the October date is going to be a student day is really important for us to message out to the community, like no matter what.
Mhm.
And that I don't believe there's any desire to touch the 2 weeks at Christmas and the week at February, and of course, then all of just the other standard federal holidays. I think for me, I wouldn't want to see non-student or makeup days added after our general testing period. And that's consistent with what our board parameters have been for numerous years. So adding student time after state testing, AP and IB testing doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I'm less tied to what day of the week that the school year ends on, having lived through what we just lived through this past year, where we were supposed to end on a Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, and we ended up ending the following Tuesday. It was supposed to be Wednesday, but the waiver changed it to Tuesday, and there's lots of moving parts at the end of the year that ultimately families made their own choice for when their last student day was. And I think they will continue to do that. So whether the school year ends on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't think that really has the impact as more important as making sure that we have instructional days, as many as possible before testing.
Director Mullings.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. It's really important just to put out there that what is currently October 17th, very highly likely will be students in schools. I think it's also really important to acknowledge that over the last few years, I think we felt more inflexibility in the schedule to deliver on the schedule of the year while properly representing the wants of the community around breaks and holidays, et cetera. So those things have pushed against each other, particularly the addition of Juneteenth as a federal holiday in the end of June. And so what is really remarkable and to be commended about the work that we just went through and the contract and the waiver we discussed is really giving us back some flexibility in the year. And while it may take us just a little bit longer, my hope is that when we get to that final schedule, it will be a really a net positive for the community when they see how that gets played out in the calendar. So I'm just incredibly excited about getting some flexibility back in what we can do and to deal with our crazy weather and how weather is changing in a way that makes it ultimately less disruptive. It's just going to take us, I think, another step to get there.
Yes, I think for me is really what we have historically heard from our community. I think we have done surveys around things like the second winter break. We've had conversations around the week before for Thanksgiving and any type of changes. And I think that historically we've landed on a pretty crisp calendar that allows us, again, as Director Gallinger was saying, having a makeup day, that March potential day off or potential makeup day, when it's really going to impact students that are doing some of that, either their SBA day testing or their state, either state assessments or the advanced assessments, that we get learning time in, that we can make up learning time before those key testing time periods. And then making use of the end of the year in a more robust way. And so making sure there's not too many disruptions before the end of the school year. So how can we, the making up of days, I appreciate that we're getting to the point where we can get to some of those waivers. So we're not, okay, the history, we almost had to go to the 3rd of July one year. It was really bad, but the state then came in with a fair number of waivers for us. But, the sooner we can get, especially Amy, to stop school several days prior to Juneteenth, so that if we had incremental days, it doesn't have to cross over that, I think is really important. And so we hope to have a calendar out, and we apologize to the public that yes, we're changing this year's calendar slightly. It is what's going to be better for students and for staff, and staff will get that really dedicated time of professional development. So yeah, really excited about getting that piece done. Any other comments before we move on? Yes, Superintendent.
I always appreciate the calendar conversations because they're always lively. And I know our community is also always having lively conversations as well. The impact will also be for the several years beyond this too. And so I know that as we continue to work through what the amazing work that has happened to have a negotiated agreement ratified and approved now tonight, that work will follow not just for this year, but also the next few years. So we do aim to have 3 years worth of calendars in advance available to the public. And so people can do multi-year planning, especially if they have, things that are important life events that require coordination. So I do want to say that there's also other steps that we need to take and that will follow, but we want to get this year very quickly ready to go. So appreciate that. And I wanted to say thank you to the bargaining teams. And I appreciate especially the work between Dorana and Donna to always lead the charge on the calendar and those involved with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's never an easy, you think it's going to be easy. It's not easy work. So we appreciate all of the effort that goes into that. Okay, thank you. Our next item on our agenda is a Levy kickoff presentation and a work study recap. So we will, as staff comes forward, I'll turn it to you, Superintendent, to kick off.
Great, thank you. We've spent the past, including this board meeting and the prior board meeting, with a work study to discuss an upcoming proposed levy for the board to consider to approve after the work of a levy committee to refine certain important questions and to gather that input for my recommendation to you all for an initiative to be put on the February ballot. And so I want to appreciate the team. In particular, we have a team here that's inclusive of Martin Turney, Mark Sherwood, and Marcel Hauser. And it's a combination of really tightening up not only our work in terms of the finance and sort of stewardship of that, but also the communications of that and the project management of that. So we're doing in-house project management for this compared to some other efforts that have been done in the past. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I want to start with a little history. Just kicking this off, letting people know typically there's a 4-year cycle for these. We had a little change around 2018 when some funding that the state put in place changed a little bit. So had a little change in cycle. Also like to remind people levies are 50% plus 1 to pass. And some recent history on the tax rate. So generally a downward trajectory. This goes back all the way to the beginning of the 2014 levy. So just wanted to show what that looks like in the near past. And again, these are the things that typically we run. A 4-year EP&O levy, that's a very important one. I'll go over in just a second. Has all those general fund operating items that make it are very important to how we run things from year to year. The capital levy includes technology and critical repairs, so getting devices and things in the hands of our students and also addressing those facility repair needs. And then, of course, we often run a 1-year transportation levy. So this can be used to replace aging buses and some charging infrastructure and potentially investing in some electric buses if that's what's the direction we go in as a district. Also failed to mention February 10th, 2026 is the ballot date. And of course, we're on the verge of beginning the Levy Advisory Committee process where we'll be gathering a lot of feedback from the community. So to go over what we call the Educational Programs and Operations Levy in our district, this is a way for us to raise funds locally. There are restrictions put on by the state. We are at a per pupil limit. It increases by CPI annually currently. A little bit more out of the last legislative session, but I won't go into those details. It provides approximately just under 17% of the general fund, so pretty significant and important. And again, this is a renewal. So this would be renewing the previous 4-year levy if we decide to go forward in that duration and authority. So again, these are for enrichment items that ties to our operational expectations. The EP&O also touches on all of our strategic plan areas. So a piece of this is very important in each of these categories of the strategic plan. Moving into the capital levy, this is kind of a two-parter. We talk about it in terms of technology and also critical repairs. This is also renewal and typically on that 4-year cycle. For technology, this what's helped us get those pieces of technology in the hands of students, provide PD, have the staff available for instruction and taking care of those items. Critical repairs is make sure we have our buildings in safe condition. We take care of the things before they begin to cause an issue for us and are unsafe for staff and students. The type of high impact projects that we could potentially do this round: vestibules, roof repairs and replacements, HVAC and fire systems. Also ties to our operational expectations and every element of the strategic plan when it comes to technology, because of course that technology is integrated in almost everything we do now. For critical repairs, primarily in 3 areas: student well-being, academic opportunities, and organizational effectiveness. The transportation levy, relatively smaller in comparison to the others. That's why we typically, when we run one, we do it 1 year only. We get the funds and we're able to utilize it over the next 4 years to get the added fleet. What we can do potentially as a district is continue to invest in electric buses. We now have 3 as a district recently that we are beginning to test, which is exciting. We are also allowed to purchase charging infrastructure out of this fund. So those are the only 2 things we can do out of here: purchase buses and the charging infrastructure if we have electrics. ties to our facilities and sustainability operational expectations. And the 2 strategic plan areas, this is closely tied to student well-being and organizational effectiveness. We also added to this slide deck for anyone's reference, a kind of a crosswalk for the EP&O levy from the primary strategic plan area to our results and OEs. So I'm just going to scan through those real quickly. As I mentioned earlier, we are on the verge of bringing together a levy advisory committee, and we've actually received those applications, sent out notification to those who applied that will be on the committee. We have over 55 members, meetings scheduled September and October. And we'll go through each of these levies. We'll provide details and get feedback from the group, make sure they have project lists, and we have ways to poll and gather information and actually leverage them to bring in information they're hearing from the community. This helps shape that final levy package that we will then bring to the superintendent, who will, of course, pass her recommendation on to you. Quickly on the timeline, obviously we're doing a lot here in August to get prepared. Had our work study sessions, selected our members, and we actually sent out a survey that was open throughout the summer for staff in terms of critical repairs. So we gathered a lot of information there that we're going to utilize in that decision making. The September and October timeframe is when we're going to have most of those meetings. I should note on this slide, September 23rd. Very recently, we needed to change it to the 24th. Unfortunately, we didn't notice there was a holiday on there, so we needed to switch that to the next day. So we want to make sure we take that into consideration. So we'll change that up. And also where it says tentative on the levy resolution approval, we are targeting the October 23rd date to have that resolution available. Excuse me. So that is no longer tentative. It is planned for the 23rd of October. November then kicks off community engagement. We have to submit to OSPI, not OPSI. That's probably my mistake, sorry. So we need to get them to approve our enrichment items. We'll be providing updates throughout November and December. We also need to have those pro-con statements turned in. That's part of the requirement. Ballots mailed out January, and then February, obviously, the lead up to the election date. Quick recap. These are renewal levies, EP&O, capital projects, technology and critical repairs included, and transportation. The first 2 being typically 4-year duration, the last being a 1-year if we do run those. And then the election date, February 10th, 50+1 to pass. Hopefully I didn't go too fast through there, but a lot of information to get through. So I wanted to make sure we had time at the end.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And for those that are watching on the Zoom, you are welcome to go, or even on YouTube, you're welcome to go to our website under the board agenda. You can click and look through this presentation at a less rapid pace, because what I truly appreciate is that everything is connected back to our board policies and our strategic plan. So if we want to be successful with our strategic plan, this is why these levies are important to that success. So wanted to open up any comments from the superintendent or to the board. Director Coyne.
Great. Thank you. And Martin, I appreciated the speed going through that. Thank you. It was it was quick, but to the point. So that was great. Just a few things, probably more observations. One, thank you for highlighting the work that's taking place and putting together the Levy Advisory Committee. I will say that the Bond Advisory Committee was very influential in helping the board make decisions. So appreciate that that's coming together. And Director Moraldo mentioned this too, but I think the connection on the presentation on page 12, and again, for folks maybe that are going back and looking at this presentation, I think it's really helpful to see that connection back to the district strategic plan and also the board's policies as well. So great that that connection was made. And then I just want to highlight And Director Mullings mentioned this, but on the annual budget guide, which I brought tonight, page 24, I think this is the very powerful information when we're looking at the impact specifically of the EP&O levy, and that, when we think about really, when we think about our funding here in the district, that makes up 16.6% of that. So I think it's really important to really understand what that means when we think about that portion of the levy package. So I just wanted to highlight that, but thank you again for the presentation.
Any other comments? Director Gallinger.
I would just say that the community and the levy committee needs to be prepared for a really robust list from the capital projects, since that's what we heard a lot of feedback from the community was they didn't disagree with the need. They disagree with the vehicle. And so, we said that the capital projects levy will be coming online, and whatever it takes to make sure that we can do everything to the greatest extent possible to keep our kids safe and healthy and thriving, physically, emotionally, academically. So I know that there's going to be lots of robust conversations about that, but I look forward to seeing the investments that our community will have the opportunity to make for our students.
So for me, we've had a couple of work study discussions around this. And if board members want to relay back to recapping tonight's discussion, where we received a lot more detail around what those asks will be. I think it's been a robust discussion. I think we're trying to provide as much guidance as possible, because ultimately the timeline is once you're going to have the levy committee take a look at all of the proposals, they'll come back with their recommendation. That goes to the superintendent, who then provides her recommendation to the board, and then the board takes action to put it on the ballot. So we do kind of have to be in there so that people aren't surprised by what the board's answer is, that we're in alignment. So I hope that the past two work studies have provided staff plenty of information about what our hopes are for those proposals that are going before the committee. And did anyone want to make any comments about tonight's work study? Director Mullings.
Thanks. So we've had two opportunities in work study to talk about the levy, which I think have been very helpful. I think my key takeaway, or one of my key takeaways from the first conversation, was really wanting to get down to a level of more description around what are the goals of the levy, the components of the levy, what need is it fulfilling, how does prioritization work, what are things that are ongoing or might be an augmentation of things that are in place, and really put more prose, for lack of a better word, to that. I think one of the challenges from the last levy, frankly, was we were communicating in bullets in a way that didn't really share or communicate what is it we're really trying to accomplish and for what reason. And I think that left a lot up to interpretation and misinterpretation and miscommunication. So I think we have a real opportunity, which I loved seeing the evolution of that in the second conversation earlier tonight, of really a lot more words to communicate where are we trying to go, why is it important, what is the impact of each of these investments. And so for me, I think it'll be important that we share this throughout the process and share it with community members. Obviously, they won't fit on simple flyers, but to have available for those who really do want to dig in and understand the meat. So I just think I want to make sure we're not making the mistake of either maybe using too many buzzwords or communicating in small clips, and so that people later are like, oh, well, I thought we were getting something and I thought we were getting something else. So I think that the evolution of and this are all the papers in front of me, the evolution of the background, the why, the overviews, what's important. I think those will be important as we share out with the committee and then with the community at large.
Thank you. Director Gallinger.
And yet I hope that it's more than just about, hey, this is our new levy authority that the state has granted us through legislative action, that we can really have time to pause and say, what are the things that we need to stop doing? And then what are the ways that we need to deepen our investments? And I hope that there's more deep investments into dual language, particularly Mandarin, up in Sammamish, which has been a community desire for quite some time. And something this board and district has talked about, and pre-COVID, that's where we were headed, as well as early learning. You know, I think we finally have some breathing room in some of our elementary schools. I know not a lot, but that we could leverage partnerships. And because we're not going to be able to serve every kid on our own that's age 3, 4, and 5. But if we can, you know, really be intentional about partnerships and seeking that, I think that's a opportunity for us to do more with limited tax dollars. So I hope that that's part of the discussion.
You know, I think for me, I do appreciate, Director Mullings, that you talk about some of the information that we were provided that had more in-depth, more discussion. I think what we had heard from the community is you're not being transparent. And I think that might be their way of saying that they didn't get anything out of our bullet points, our, you know, quick and slick one-pagers. That's good for a lot of people need that amount of messaging and no more. But I think there's a segment of the community that says you're hiding something in that one page because there's no way you can summarize all of it. So I think it's having that balance. And so that's really appreciated, that if you want more information, go here. And so I think making that available, taking that communication piece and doing that project management within the district, I think is a way for us to really say we need to better connect with our constituents, and that this is a way to do that. Because I think it can be lost in a one-pager with some great infographics. Now that's how I like to see things. But for some people, they want to know, what is the district really up to? And I think that we as a board need to, and we have really said, we heard when the community said, I don't believe you. And I will go to what Director Gallinger said. We told them we were going to provide them a Chinese dual language, and we haven't done that yet. So what do we need to do to make that happen? How can we make sure that we are keeping the promises that we're making? I think the other thing from our discussion is as much as possible, we don't want to see an increase to that tax rate that you showed. So we're trying to talk about all of this information, all the things that we want to do while keeping the tax rate steady. Now, if the committee comes back and there's some amazing things that we've decided is in the best interest of students and it costs a penny or two more, we'll take a look at that. But our desire, and what I think the board has voiced, is to, as much as possible, to any extent possible, keeping that tax rate level for our community. We know that taxes are rising. We know that the state legislature says, well, we'll help you with your education shortfall by allowing you to tax the taxpayer more. And so the board's agreement is like, no, that's not what we want to do. So although one of the discussions is we will be leaving levy authority on the table that we're not going to be asking the public for. And so I do want to make that statement was clearly heard from all the board members, to whatever extent possible, not to raise the tax rate.
Thank you for recapping the, discussion and the important values that are and programs and aspirations we have. I do think that this approach with this levy cycle of start, stop, continue, which is actually what we have been working into our general annual expense management system, is important to apply to these other avenues. So there are things that we will need to renew because, as Director Coyne said, it's almost 17% of our general fund revenue. But there are things that we can do differently. There's things that might have already sunsetted and we've had the desired effect and impact because it was an investment for capacity. And so what might we do differently with those funds that would would have been going towards something that is no longer needed. So it is an opportunity for us to both preserve the things that we must, but also think about things differently. And I know that our team is really excited about that. And we will put some of those important key questions forward because there are some knowns. And this is really important. I know that with every committee I'm on, sometimes I'm like, is it the boil of the ocean? Or is it a done deal? And we are much more in between, which is that there are things that we know we must do and must invest in and preserve, while also giving the very specific questions to the committee to really gather authentic feedback and to help guide. So we don't know what that will be, but we have some guidance here from you all, and we're looking forward to doing that work with our committee. So the first thing I want to talk about during this works in progress moment is just upcoming events, various important dates and details for the general operations of our district, but also any holidays or recognitions or celebrations that are important to note for our community. And so the way that I'd like to handle that, because there are many that happen during the month, and so instead of doing a one-off, that could then just become, pro forma or just a way to perform that. This is a good way to highlight the upcoming, next 4 to 6 weeks for the board and for our community, and to say that we see these important events, holidays, religious observation days. So as you see, Rosh Hashanah, for example, September 22nd here, but that continues on. So that's why we're moving that date of September 23rd for the Levy Committee to September 24th. So this gets posted on our agenda. It'll something I will just show. And if there's anything specific that I want to highlight, I will. But it also gives the board an opportunity to get their eyes on that, because we do have this posted. But again, it's what we highlight that sometimes can help remind us of what is important. So really great work to our team, our family partnership, well-being, equity, belonging team, communications team, for really always making sure that we are capturing all the important moments that our very diverse community celebrates, honors, and recognizes. So with that, we're still in the phase of preparing for the school year. Something that I've had a great opportunity to do this last week was to visit with the Issaquah Kiwanis. I believe that actually the Sammamish Kiwanis might be dissolved, so they're absorbing some of those members as well. And so I committed to, it was such a robust conversation, I committed to returning on September 17th again, and to engage in further topics of really important discussion. We spent some time talking about generative AI and really the changing landscape in education as a result of the changing workforce. Specifically, we had a question that I wanted to engage that group on around what are the durable skills that are important, that are across industry, that are important for us to make stronger connection to. And as we consider our work with secondary, this upcoming high school, just the work that we need to do as a system, we're going to have to evolve, and we're going to have to think about that lens and a tighter connection to our work in education, to workforce. And so our students have the opportunity to fulfill the vision and mission and the results of this board, that they are not only thriving, but they also have really strong opportunities to be mobile, both in their careers, but economically as well. So that's something that I'm going to return to talk about. And as a note, it's an interesting group, because there's 3 former board members in that group that also have additional knowledge of the history of the district and can weigh in a unique way as a result of that. I've talked a lot about the Career Kickstart. We're going to talk about career connected learning. That pilot program did officially wrap up last week. It was very successful, again, funded by the Issaquah Schools Foundation and really a corporate partner, Sandmark Corporation. It was great, and we're still gathering the feedback, but it was a real strong effort. I want to acknowledge Jess Hall, as well as Julie Bamba, for a lot of those efforts to make sure that came to fruition for this first time this year. And more than 100 community volunteers helped out in some way, shape, or form to help give our students exposure to shadowing opportunities, industry tips, just career tips overall, and to be on site to see what it looks like to work in an environment that might be health sciences or business or otherwise, technology as well. So that's great, and we'll continue to share that feedback to inform future opportunities. And I want to take a moment to also thank everyone who made our back to school resource fair last week such a success. I did attempt to do some family volunteering, but my it was more supervision of the family than actual full family volunteering. But we tried our very best, and there were so many volunteers. So actually, the great thing that we saw was that so many volunteers were there to help out. We had over 430 families, and over that serves nearly 900 students. And this is our second time. And so there was the connecting those families with school supplies, backpacks, lunch boxes, meals, physicals, other health services as well. And we had several different teams between our community engagements teams, our food services, athletics, nursing, equity. I'm naming these because I'm looking them at directly. I don't want to miss anyone. Equity and family partnerships, student information systems, communications, and transportation. So basically, almost our entire district was represented, and it was really great to also just see people, having fun together and being in community together. So that was incredible. So thank you. This week and next week, we have all staff across the district who are preparing to welcome students next week. And last week we had new hire orientation, and today was the first day back for teaching staff in the buildings. And our food services team, transportation team, our before and after school care team, and others have been convened to kick off as well. Yesterday was specifically a incredible day for over 200 special services and general education staff who came together for the annual special services workshop. And the focus this year was really on leveraging data to drive instruction, access, and opportunity. And so this was a very collaborative professional opportunity, bringing together teachers that have specialized knowledge, but also with our teachers that are considered general education teachers to partner on this day, and to really, as we said earlier, is consistent with what was a great focus through the results of the collective bargaining agreement on inclusion and inclusionary practices and serving all of our students well. And so that was an incredible effort. I want to thank the team for that. Big kudos. And other than that, we are just working on getting ready for school next week. So that's what's happening.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the superintendent? Director Coyne.
I did have one item that I highlighted here, and appreciate Superintendent you highlighting the upcoming dates, and really that information is out on our website. I think it's, even to us as board members, I think the community's heard us sometimes being, a bit surprised on some of the great information that's out on that website. And so thank you for highlighting that, because I think it's good for all of us. Oh, and thank you for bringing it back up again. All of us to know that that's out there and to check it out, especially with the new school year starting. So thank you.
And if you're online, you can scan that code and go directly to see the full religious and cultural calendar. Great, thank you. The next item on our agenda is legislative matters. Oh, capital projects. I should have seen you there. I'm already trying to rush through. No, take your time. Definitely interested in the work. Again, this is projects funded by our taxpayers, and so letting them know where we're at with the work that we've promised to get done is very important. So thank you.
Absolutely. Tom Mullins, Director of Capital Projects. Good evening, everyone. Give you an update on capital projects. Status on the 2018 and 22 levies. Update on we have a larger general fund project going. Give a little update on where we're at on some current grant projects, and update on the new high school project. 2018, all of the 2018 levy projects, with the exception of Challenger and Newcastle Elementary School HVAC commissionings, will be substantially complete by the end of August this month, here in a week or so. Work continues on the 22 levy projects as needed. Larger general fund project, Beaver Lake Middle School elevator modernization. although it's currently working, the elevator continues to be problematic, and it's been determined it's old enough that needs to be modernized. Because the elevator has to be shut down for 2 months during the 6 to 8 weeks during the process. We're gonna have to do it over the summer, which is gonna have to happen next summer. So it's gonna stretch out a little bit. Grant opportunities, our OSPI per square foot grant to help pay for the IGAs. We got that. We've applied for the reimbursable funds. They've been approved by OSPI. Department of Commerce Energy Efficiency Grant that we did over at Issaquah High School. It's part of ticking a few boxes on the Clean Buildings Performance Standards. It's retro commissioning along with some other things, some repairs. It's going to wrap up late this month, and we've approved the reimbursable funds there have been approved. Major portion of the reimbursable funds have been approved by Department of Commerce. And then we've got the Department of Ecology EV bus and related infrastructure grant that we've been working on with operations, Jason's team. The infrastructure, the grant has been awarded. We're nearing completion. Buses have been delivered to ISD where we have those in hand. And my last bullet point, the infrastructure is being installed, and we're hoping to start charging EV buses in mid-September. We actually got an update. PSC got the work done, turned on the power. We're actually might be able to plug a bus in tomorrow morning, test that infrastructure and see how it works. New high school update. The major amendment application process was submitted to the city July 1st, and that kicks off the major amendment process. There's a full schedule on the next slide we can go through if you need more detail. We continue to communicate with city staff through the amendment process. That it's a lot like a miniaturized version of the land use process where you work with the city staff, answer all their questions. They create a staff report that goes to the Development Commission. We're working with them on that. We're still targeting construction start date on March 1st of this next year, and expected opening date of the school still remains August of 27. Any questions on the schedule?
I do.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure I understood, like in the example, it's a line item that city review round 1.
Yep.
Do I read the start and end date, start and finish date as that's what you expect, but the comment is it could last up to 8 weeks?
Yes, and that is our expected amount of time. State law, no, but the state law requires, are you talking city review round 1, state law requires an 8-week turnaround time. So
So
these
does
are
that
the
mean it
dates
can't
we,
go beyond 8 weeks.
but it shouldn't per
Okay.
state law, as long as our submittal was deemed complete, which it was, they have up to 8 weeks, and we're hoping to turn that around quicker.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
Yep. Any other questions on the schedule? If not, site plan, a few colors to show the main elements of what we're doing there. Improvements on 228th, all the other site improvements, about an 80,000 square foot portion of the school, reduced size parking garage, sports field, track, lights, and all of the other infrastructure that goes with the site. Next slide. First floor plan. It's again a little hard to see, but we've moved the entrance from this side. You know, the entrance was on the portion of the school that we're not building in this phase, building in phase 1B. Moved that over there. That's the type of thing. The loading dock moved over here. The facade changes are one of the main keys that put us into a major amendment process. So this is mainly CTE floor, commons, kitchen, back of house, administration, entrance and administration, and a couple general ed classrooms are on the outside. Second floor, a lot of that space, as we remember, was two-story clear space, so a lot of it doesn't have anything above it. We've got general ed classrooms, the library's on the second floor, and then we have a CTE class in the green, along with some other smaller breakout spaces. And third floor is generally gen ed and science classrooms are mainly up on this floor, along with teacher prep spaces and things like that. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Amen.
Oh, sorry about that. Building elevations, forgot there was one more page there. Just some of the exterior elevations as we propose to the city. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. So are there any questions or comments from the board? Love the
General
update.
excitement.
Yes.
Here we go.
I think it is. So in this version of the school, is it the only PE space outdoor?
Yes.
Outdoor, okay. Thanks.
Dr. Coyne.
Excited to hear how things go with the electric bus being
Yeah.
plugged in for the first time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're bringing the rep from the dealership there to make sure everything goes good. They've got some tests they'll run and everything, and then we'll be able to charge those buses up. And I think they're going to actually possibly have one at the first Levy committee meeting
Oh, that's great.
and offer rides.
And I know this has been mentioned before, but it's going to start, the route will be Sammamish, right? So we'll have, and it will be what, at the elementary level, middle,
We're
high school?
gonna let Jason with operations answer
Okay.
those questions. This, to be honest, more his bailiwick, the whole project.
Thanks, Tom. Jason Morris, Executive Director of Operations. I'd like to give a shout out to Tom and his team because this really has been a multi-department process as far as getting the grant, working on the buses, but then capital projects helping us get the installation complete. We have some steps, so we're super excited to get them rolling. We're excited to get first charge. We do have some work that we need to have done to the buses. We inspect them for safety, so that stuff has to happen, and we have to train our drivers. So we do have a little bit of work to go. We're hoping to be rolling them in fall, but they won't be ready for day one of school because of the training situation. We're going to begin identifying routes and just experimenting. I would expect to see, there's only 3 of them at this point, but I would expect to see them at both elementary and secondary. Many of our drivers roll in the same bus, secondary, middle school, high school first, and then go get an elementary route. So those routes are sometimes the same driver. So I expect to see them at all 3 levels when we first start using them.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for the detail. And I think also the connection to OE 17 last year, really the creation of that. And we lived that with our students last year that really helped to bring that to fruition. So it's really great. This tied directly to that too.
I will include it on the monitoring report.
Thanks. Thank you.
You bet.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Anything, Superintendent?
I'm excited to continue to do the work to help get this next high school up and running.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now on our agenda is legislative matters. Now, I'm assuming that AJ is not going to be sharing out. Exactly. As far as I know, we will be probably looking at meetings with our legislators at some point. But right now, this is kind of a time where they're campaigning. And so I don't know that there's a whole lot of activity as far as this isn't, we're still in the summertime. So bills aren't being dropped in the hopper. All of that will happen later on. So there's little there. And federally, I think we're just looking at budgets and what kind of approval what changes are being made. And so there's just a world of uncertainty when it comes to federal legislative matters. So with that, I will move on to announcements and correspondence. So are there any announcements that the board would like to share? Okay, hearing none. We will move on. Correspondence can be seen on the website under, we'll give a list of correspondence that has been received. So if the public is interested in seeing that, they may take a look. Next item on the agenda is calendar and future agenda topics. So we do have a few things that are in front of you. So one of the items is scheduling town hall meetings by feeder pattern in October. So I'll take some direction if you have some.
We would like to get time and we can send out a calendar, but if there are any dates that are definitely not doable dates, and we already know what our board schedule is, and we also know when some levy committee work will be as hold. So sometimes it's helpful to start with getting a little bit of the parameters from the board, then we can move forward. But if there's an opportunity to do that now, then we can get some input from your calendars. And then sometimes it does work out like sort of easily, but sometimes it just requires some work after this. And I do know that we don't have AJ here for that, director.
And we're looking for obviously an evening, probably 7 p.m. Is that?
I think you started town halls sometimes at 5:36.
Would it be, or would it be better to go later?
I think, yeah, I have no opinion on that one. Maybe we do a variety of some earlier, some later, but we're looking for 3 dates, right? If we're doing by feeder pattern? Is that what you're?
I think that was the hope. I think there's as we come up on various things that are important for the school year, I think by feeder pattern is a good way to organize it. It also brings natural ability to get to 3 different regions of the district. That helps make it easier for families to connect. So that was a kind of clean way to cover that for the board.
Okay, so if Emily is taking notes on this, on October 8th, October 10th, and October 27th, I would not be available.
I'm gone the full week of October 20th. So I will actually not be at I might be able to do the board meeting remote, but I won't be physically here.
And I'm not available October 1st or 2nd.
Correct.
Might be a good date to target. That works for other people. Yeah, that works for me.
So one possible date of 3 is October 16th.
I can't do the 2nd. I can't do the 1st either. Sorry. Was it 1st and 2nd are the 2 days I can't do.
I'm gone the full week. 20, yes. I can do the 27th.
I could do that too.
I could potentially do the 27th.
The 20th is an ISF board meeting. As a note, I will also be traveling for something the 27th, the 29th. But you don't necessarily always need me. I just wanted to.
So if we did the 28th, it could be a later one. Cause then I just have to show up for the first portion of the ISF meeting and so if that would be a good time for a central one. So if we met somewhere here in the
Mhm.
valley.
The 28th would work.
I can make that work.
I think it's 16.
16th.
16th?
Because 17th is a Friday. So 16th, 20, and then 28th
16.
and 27th, 28th.
28th.
Okay, 16, 27, 28. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll do two back to back, the 27th, 28th. And are these at the three high schools or what was the?
We can, yeah, we can work on it.
Yeah.
Is there any chance the 30th works for you all? So I could attend one of those during that week? And I know it's hard, but I wanted to,
Harlan and I have a WASDA Board of Directors meeting.
got it. Yeah.
Virtually.
Okay.
Or is there another day, the week of the 13th? We have the 16th. Did that not, did some folks have a conflict that week? We want to do something earlier that week, so. Oh, you can't. Okay. But you can do the 16th. Okay. And what about the 6th, the week of the 6th? Marnie, did somebody have a conflict that week? You are. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Well, the board has 4 of you that can make 3 dates, which is pretty incredible that happened so quickly without a Calendly or
Yeah.
doodle. And just know that the week of the 27th, you will have some staff out that would typically attend potentially in support and also observation, but you won't have me, so you only have yourselves, and we can figure out how to provide that additional support.
Right. Yeah, you can send somebody in your stead.
Okay.
So Emily will clarify with AJ, his availability, for most of those, but with 4 of us being there, I think that's a good number. And then locations. And so this will come back for action at our next board meeting, which before I get to the next item, I do want to say that Director Coyne will be unavailable at the next board meeting and I will be in Los Angeles. So though I can attend, I will not be able to run that meeting virtually very effectively. So I will be at the CUBE conference. And hopefully somebody will send me a reminder like, I hope you're coming to the meeting in 5 minutes.
Is that the 11th?
It's the 11th.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I fly back the night of the 10th. I should be here, travel allowing on the 11th, and if you want me to run the meeting, that should be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we can go on. The next item was monthly PTSA and Issaquah School Foundation meetings, just for your review. The PTSA Council General Membership meetings. I will be at attendance at most of those as possible, representing Influence of Choice, but there's plenty of room for another school board member to attend those. So if there's somebody that wants to be the standing person, or if you want to rotate, please let Emily know. She'll let the PTSA Council know who at what date, but for the most part, I will be attending.
I can be your backup, but really more of a backup just given the time of day. But yeah, I'd like to maybe try to target like hitting 2 of those maybe this year if I can. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if others wanted to try to do that too or not. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at my calendar and get back on that. I'm gonna need more time probably with those dates.
Okay. So how about just because September is coming up quickly, if anyone can do the September 25th one and mark their calendars with that.
I know I can't do that one.
You're going to be. Okay, so Harlan will take September 25th.
And then I can get back to you on the future dates.
Okay, so we can bring this up for discussion at the next, actually at the second meeting in September, since Director Coyne won't be at the next one. Yes, but this is in the morning. It's a daytime meeting. Yeah, PTSA. ISF board meeting, so I will be in attendance up until October 26th. It's December 9th is. Or I guess I can still do December 9th. I'll still be president. So I will be doing that through December 9th and then. Yep. And then WASDA General Assembly is happening on Saturday, September 20th, virtually. Not my jam. Yes, lots of booze. Well, as in boo, not lots of booze. Sorry. There's two uses of that. As in boo hiss, to be clear. And so I believe that there might need to be an announcement because I think as WASDA board members, Harlan and I will both want to be in on the call. And then AJ's our ledge rep.
And actually, is this room available on that time and that day? If you would look, because I think I would love for us to actually host regional, who else from Eastern County would like to come join us, and we'll have our own, but it would be where we would need to have this room available and tech support. Because what we would do is we would literally run it as if, so anyone of the district who would come and be able to speak. So we would broadcast from that podium to give their input. Does that make sense?
So we will look into two things. One is availability of the room on a Saturday, which is sometimes likely, and then the availability and the allocation of using resources to support tech support on those off hours. Is that something I sometimes get a head nod on that one? Okay.
Yes.
Just to get it started, then I can do it after. But
Yeah, but still, I want to make sure it's a.
Yeah. I think that would be vital. Harlan and I both serve on the WASDA Board of Directors, and we're very displeased at the fact that WASDA wants to save $36,000 by not hosting it in person in a hybrid manner. There is something to being together when making decisions, when looking at policy or positions about legislative positions or resolutions, which are our longstanding beliefs. And to not be together, I think we lose something. We lose a piece of being able to communicate, being able to share. So I think if we can host that and have our fellow board members from our nearby districts spend that time with us, I think that would be phenomenal.
I think we could model a path forward for what hybrid could look like that would still bring people together locally.
Okay. Are there any other items for the good of the order? Hearing none, we are adjourned.